I hope we launch with Cedric's evil cackle. That would be ideal.
You gotta get outside the box to win this fantasy pro tour. So
No, actually, you just want to stay inside the box as much as possible.
We've not located the box,
no,
friend.
You must get outside of the box, Glenn.
Outside the box is literally a negative EV strategy.
I want to dabble.
Okay, I can see a screen. I pressed the refresh button, and things are happening.
You're so good.
Alright. Okay. So what? Let me bring up my business here. Okay, let's do it. Hello and welcome everyone to Gamestate episode 28. It is Monday, February the 11th, and today we're going to be talking about GP London, Star City Games Edison, and previewing the Pro Tour Gatecrash in Montreal upcoming this weekend. I am your host, Adam Winner as you Ragstill, and with me as always are Glenn Jones, event coverage coordinator for Star City Games.
Hello.
Stephen Flavel, poker pro and magic enthusiast.
Woo!
And Cedric Phillips, professional magician.
Don't mind me, I'm filling out my fantasy pro tour right now, and for my player, I've got someone who I really want to win, but probably won't. So
Awesome.
We'll get there soon. And it actually just asked me if I wanted to put that player in. Don't ask me.
Are you sure? Is that?
Yes, I'm very sure that's who I want for my Pro Tour player.
Alright. The first thing we are going to touch on as people trickle in to watch our show is something which we perhaps could have mentioned last week. We're going to touch very briefly on the missed trigger update, which happened last Monday before our show, but we didn't mention it, so we're going to mention it this week. Here is a link in the chat to the article on the Wizards.com site for those who are not aware. I'm just going to go to each of you quickly. You can bring up whether you think it is a step in the right direction and any specific thoughts you think or spots you think it will influence the game at the competitive level. Cedric, what do you think about the missed trigger update?
I think it's a step in the right direction, honestly, because I think that anything that the prior one was so bad that almost anything they did would be a positive step in the right direction. So by default, I think that this is better than what they had previously. So that I don't have a ton to say.
High praise.
Yeah, look, I am who I am, right? It was so bad the last time around that I'm sure Glenn or Steven can explain things much better and eloquently than I can, but I am a fucking jerk, and it was horrible before, and it's a little bit better now. So hooray!
Do you think it's gonna have a big impact? Like, will this be much different from how it was before?
Some, but not a lot. Which is, again, it's okay. Like, the Exalted thing is, better. But I don't think it's going to have, like, this huge, like gigantic difference than before. I think it's just better overall, and, a lot of the feedback on Twitter among professional players like Paulo and LSV are just like, yeah, this is, like, a healthy balance between, like, some of the problems before, and now it's better now. So I think it's not going to have, like, this dramatic impact or anything, but I think people are going to be overall happier with the change.
Alrighty. Glenn, what are your thoughts?
First off, I think this whole trigger thing has been handled really badly, just because it's been changed so many times in a relatively short span of time. It boggles the mind. I can only imagine how daunting it is to someone who actively struggles with them to just have to relearn the rules multiple times. Just ridiculous. I feel like we should have probably tested this one out internally or something. But anyway. I think that these rules are, I guess, better. I don't know. I'll just continue playing by the rules that they keep setting. It's really the only thing I ever do. It leads to some awkward scenarios. You're not now triggers are assumed to have happened until something indicates they haven't. So say I attack with my Geist of Saint Traft. I'm just I say attack with Geist of Saint Traft. They say no blocks. I say take 6. Do they take 6? Because that's the first moment. Except that blocking was technically the first moment. Maybe they're at 6, and if it's a 2/2, they don't have to block. Things like that. If I play a Batter Skull and I'm just Batter Skull, go, and they're attack, I'm block with my Germ. They're these scenarios seem really awkward. So I don't know exactly how these rules work personally quite yet, but I can't imagine they are intuitive for people looking to move up to that level, especially considering that the rules have changed so many times. I know Todd, actually, at the PTQ we went to this weekend, the head judge mentioned the new trigger rules and asked for someone to say it, and Todd raised his hand and was like laughed at, and Todd's like, I mean, I don't know how to do it. Like, I'm just gonna keep doing like announce every single trigger until like I figure it out because I don't know what's going on. And I think that is actually a sentiment shared by a lot of people. They just don't know what is going on and don't want to get screwed over.
Yeah, I mean, my impression of both of the scenarios you envisioned is that, like, both triggers would in fact occur. Like, the guy would take 6 and there would be a
Sure.
German play. But I'm
The
not
issue
an
there
authority
is,
or
like,
anything.
I made my attack without a German play or whatever, like,
Right.
so would that person get to rewind? Did they just get their guy got? Like, I don't know. It's just weird. Because even if, like, the Germ's going to be in play, like, you still kind of get a free roll on your attack, right? Like,
Right,
if it rewinds, you're just like, attack their thing, like, block a germ. You're like, oh, I didn't know there was a germ. You didn't declare that. Well, one sec. We'll fix this. And it's like, Yeah, it's just definitely some weirdness going on.
The fact that it's unclear at all is the problem, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think there is a solution that, like, makes everything perfect. It's just, like, every time there's going to be something else that messes up. Like, there's some other way it's flawed every time.
I feel like we never had. I feel like, like 5 or 6 years ago, or, like when I was playing when I was younger, I was 20 or 21, these problems never arose. Like, they never came up. Like, we didn't have, like, this big issue because, like, there were mays and there were must. And, like, if you missed a must or whatever, like, if it was too far gone, then, like, you don't get it or whatever. But I feel like we didn't ever have, like, all of these crazy issues where we have now where people are going, you didn't announce your Ember turn, you suck it. Like, we didn't have all these issues before where we didn't have these issues during, like, Champion and Kamigawa block where there was a million mays and a million musts, like, in that limited format. Like, that's the one that I always think of. Like, there wasn't a problem before. I feel like these issues were created, like, when they didn't need to be because of, like, a bad rules change. But maybe I'm wrong. Like, you used to play, like, we all used to play a little while ago. Did this happen back then?
I mean,
like,
we usually, like, to be honest, like, it's hard to remember even, but, like, if you missed something that was a must, like, we just treated it as it had applied as long as it was caught before, like, anything had happened. And if something had happened, then we were just like, oh, well, it's too late now. Like,
Yeah, I mean, my impression is that they're changing it more or less back to the way it was, and it will take a while for people to get used to that again, but as long as it stays constant for a long enough amount of time,
yes,
it will cease to be a big issue.
Stability is important.
Steven, do you have any thoughts on the rules change?
Yeah, I like the rules change a lot. I think that when we were discussing the last rules change, we were complaining a little that we wanted the cards to actually do what they said they did in order to be able to play Magic, and I think that that's one of the biggest things that this trigger change does, is that now the triggers actually happen. So I appreciate that.
It's very nice of them.
I am for this change in general. I think it does good things to the game.
Yeah.
I think it's a baby step in the right direction.
Baby steps. Let's move on to GP London. It was the largest event of this past weekend. It was a limited Grand Prix, which had almost 2,000 people playing in it. Is that correct? It was very, very large.
It was very gigantic.
And it was won by Timothy Simonot. Probably mispronouncing his name. Yeah, that's certainly possible. With a mighty limited deck containing both Shambles Shark and Mystic Genesis, making his deck the clear victor on the weekend. But my question to you fine gentlemen is, how do you find Gatecrash Limited in general, specifically Draft? I have heard comparisons to the Zendikar format of yesteryear, which was known as a very quick format. This one is supposed to be not quite as fast, but can be similarly speedy. So what do you think of this format, and how do you think that the speed of a limited format affects your enjoyment of it? Cedric, go to.
I like to attack a lot. I don't know if you knew that about me. I also like to attack with nothing a lot and dare my opponent's block. That's something you get to do a lot in this format, so I like it. Because there's a lot of tricks in common across all of the colors that let you just get to attack with nothing, and I'm a big fan of that. So I kind of like how this format plays out thus far. I haven't got to play a ton of it yet. I was really sick over the past couple of days, so I've just been lying in bed. Mostly I didn't get to go to pre-release either, but talking with people I respect, especially when it comes to Limited, especially the person who actually taught me how to play Magic, my best friend over in Ohio, He's very partial to Simic. He likes how that deck plays a lot, just because it's one of the decks that has just unbelievable draws that people can't come back from if you draft the deck correctly, or just get like the right draw as far as turn 1 Cloud Rift Raptor, Experiment 1, and a guy. There's like no coming back from that start from like all of the decks is what he's found so far. Obviously, you're not always going to get that deck or that draw, but that's like a huge thing that he's been a fan of. And the thing that's kind of saddening to me is that what's it called? Gruul and just Blood Rush's mechanic overall just is not as good as I guess I thought it was going to be, and as good as everyone thought it was going to be, which was like kind of bordering on like unbeatable. It's too hard to block, all this stuff. It just doesn't really play that way. But overall, I mean, thus far, I'm a pretty big fan of the format. I've heard sealed is kind of stinky, but I like to. But I mean, I'm a big fan of attacking. I'm a big fan of attacking with nothing. It's like my specialty. It's what I like to do when I play limited. Is just dare my opponent to block a lot. So if that's how this format is shaping up, and just bashing without like landfall, which I didn't think was a very good limited mechanic, but like I think a lot of these mechanics are pretty good in limiting, and I like how they kind of cross overlap each other, like Extort and Conspire do. So I don't know. It seems pretty good so far. There's still obviously a lot of things to be peeled back and figure out. So I'm a fan at this point.
All right, Glenn.
Uh-oh.
It's all right. Like, I really hated it when I first played it. I did 2 drafts, and I went 0-3, and in every game that I lost, it felt like I didn't get to do, like, anything. Like, I just got crushed. And every game I won, which was a game in a match, every game in a match, like, 1 game per match, it felt like my opponents didn't get to do anything. So I was like, well, that means there's not, like, great magic going on. It's just, like, one of us browning the other one with whatever we happen to draw. Like,
love it.
Yeah, since then we've like evaluated some of the cards better, and I think like I'll draft it. It's fine. It's not going to go down as one of my most beloved formats of all time or anything. And I think that most of the cool things that you can do in the set are traps, stuff like Cipher, like some of the more adorable Simic interactions. It's just like, no, that's not correct. You should just be trying to get a little bit of value from the kind of things and moving on with your life by playing like durable quality creatures. Like, you can look at the GP Champs deck, which is Simic, and it's, like, crazy aggressive. He's playing, like, a 3-mana 2-3 that doesn't do anything. Like, it's the mill guy, but, like, he doesn't mill anyone. It's just a 3-mana 2-3 because he needs another guy. Like, he's playing multiple Spell Ruptures because all he has to do is, like, get his opponent once with it, and then the game's over because he attacks them with, like, 4 creatures. Like, that's the format, They just stumble once or twice, and they're dead. It's pretty obnoxious. Like, playing it, you just are like, well, this is just the optimal thing. I'm just going to do it every time. And I've done like 5 or 6 drafts now, and they're fine. I think that Dimir, I still don't think that guild is good. Like, I've played against decks that seemed insane and beat them still. Like, the 4 unblockable 3-mana 2-2 guy with multiple Cipher cards, like, still beat that guy. So if that's not going to kill me, then I don't know what is at that point. I actually did a draft today on my stream and had a Dimir deck that was really good, like one of the better Dimir decks I had seen. It was just where I got pushed into, and just died randomly to a Skullcrack and lost in the first round with this deck. And I'm just like, yeah, like my deck's just not as good as like a average other deck in most cases. So I kind of think that it's a little too aggressive and crazy for my tastes, but I'll obviously play it because I don't have anything else to do with my time.
Solid. You seem to be not a huge fan of sealed.
Yeah, I did a sealed on my stream today too, and I don't know. It's not necessarily that I'm not a huge fan. It's like I guess I don't get it yet, but like I opened a deck I was pretty sure was unplayable. I thought I was just gonna 0-3 and leave the event, and I lost round 1 to getting. I think like I got peeled on even. Like I think I was gonna win, and then I just 3-0'd the remaining 3 rounds. Like, some of the games were close, but for the most part, like, I didn't really know what was going on. I was just confused as to why I was winning, because it felt like I would die to almost anything every time. So, yeah, I don't really know. Maybe I just ran good for a sealed, but that pool was horrible. Like, I had to splash into 2... I had to go 4 colors to get 23 playables. And we're using the term playable pretty loose here, considering we're running, like, Armored Transport in our deck that ramps into 5 and 6 drops. With Verdant, whatever. Like, that card just made the deck because it was castable. kind of a weird format.
Sounds mighty.
Oh yeah.
Alright, Steven, do you have Gate Crash Limited thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with everything that you two have said. I actually think that this format is a little more interesting to me than Return to Ravnica was because of where the blue-black cards go, which, like, I just don't think that they go in a blue-black deck, which means that whereas in Return to Ravnica, I feel that you very commonly had decks adhering strictly to the 5 guilds that were available. Here you're getting sort of an amalgam of other stuff going on because nobody wants to draft Demir, but then there are all these like blue and black cards to put somewhere. So I do like that. I wish that the decks had a little more play to them, a little more interaction. But I think that when you have a 5 guild set, it's really easy to only have 5 draftable decks. So I am appreciative at least that there's a little more going on than that.
Yeah, speaking to what you actually just said, one of the other issues with Demir is like the color bleeding that's going on. Like you can see in that GP top 8 even, like it's not that weird to see 3-color decks becoming like really, really common because like Demir isn't getting drafted, it's just getting like chopped up and sold to whoever can jam it into their deck. And then everyone else is like, because of that happening, having to like play weird cards. And yeah, it's really weird. Like just watching the format is getting kind of bizarre. I think that Prism is going up in my evaluation as a card because I just like having the flexibility, and sometimes it even lets you splash like multiple colors. Like I love Frilled Oculus, even like if the green's a little hard to get, like he's still a fine man as a 1/3 for 2 in a format where people are trying to beat you to death. But like when you get the green, he's really good. And so if I'm like running Prisms and splashing that guy, it's like, well, why don't I just slip some Kingpin's pets in here? Like there's really no reason not to. Like, this is where I'm going. Like,
greedy human.
I mean, my cards aren't good. I have to kill them with someone else's cards. So that means that someone else has to find someone else's cards. Like, that's the rotation that's going on.
I'm drafting 2 colors always.
I mean, I have never
way.
had to splash. I've gone Gruul, Orzhov, and Boros, and I don't think I've ever had to splash doing that, except for like one 3v3, where somehow I had to go into this like bizarre 3-color Boros deck with Hold the Line or whatever it is in it. And that card was actually really sweet in Boros Mirror, so that's a little tip for you guys if you didn't realize that enchantment was playable. It is. It's +0/+1 in Vigilance for every guild gate you have, in case you weren't wondering.
No.
Ooh.
It's actually really obnoxious if you have like 2 Bomber Core and another guy, and you're just can't kill him.
Fair.
Alright. Let us touch quickly on the Star City Games Edison Standard Open. We're not going to spend too long here because we will be back in Standard for the bulk of our show talking about the Pro Tour. But the Star City Standard Open was won by William
Postlethwaite.
Postlethwaite? Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Alright, solid. With Jund midrange in a top 8 of 2 Naya punching, 2 Boros punching, 1 Jund punching, 1 Jund midrange, 1 Junk midrange, and 1 Esper control. 2 quick questions, I think. The first question is, what cards do you like in this top 8? A top 8 where midrange did well and aggro sort of got beaten down a little bit after aggro beat up everyone in the first week. What cards do you like in this top 8? Cedric.
What cards do I like in this top 8?
Yeah, like which cards in the archetypes, not the archetypes themselves.
Sure, understood. Huh. Well, I'm going to say it. I am a fan of Rakdos Keyrune in the Jund deck, and I think there should be more of them, honestly. Because I think it's pretty important for you to be able to go from 3 to 5 when you're playing the Jund deck to be able to get to be able to get to Thragtusk. Now, Key Rune was actually like pretty good in the Jund mid-range deck beforehand because like it did a nice job of dodging removal and did a nice job of actually winning the Thragtusk war because it's a 3/1 first striker, what have you. But I think that this card should probably get played a little bit more. I don't know if you can, I'm not saying this is a card you should play 4 of, but I think that going from 3 to 5 when the format's as aggressive as it looks like it's going to be, to actually get to your Thragtusk on time is actually like a pretty big deal. So like being on the plate and being able to go from 3 to 5 is like pretty big, and being able to draw to be able to go to 3 to 5 to actually get yourself up against those decks is I think a big deal as well. Also, it makes it so that you can actually cast your Bonfire of the Damned for 2 on turn 4 for like a relevant amount. Again, I don't feel like this is a card that you should be playing 4 of because 4 of those is a lot. You don't want to cut land. You want to make sure you hit your land drops. You don't want to be reliant on hitting your Key Rune or your Farseek. You actually want to be able to play a normal game of Magic and have the ability to, when you do draw your Key Rune, actually be able to play like a game of Magic a lot faster or a lot better. But I think that this is a card that's pretty important to the deck. Seeing one of them doesn't really surprise me. Wouldn't be surprised to see 2, potentially 3 of these moving forward. It seems like it's really well positioned right now. Good blocker, good attacker, dodges removal, and accelerates you. So I feel like if you want to play Jund midrange, this is a card that you actually want to be playing in the deck.
All right. I suspect we'll be back for him, but that's an excellent
Maybe.
point. Glenn, what cards do you like in this top 8?
Yeah, I think Cedric was just trying to get his artifact to get some more numbers, personally. I don't know.
What are you talking about?
You think that over Staff of Nin? More...
Yeah. My card, I guess I kind of actually have 2. I don't know. I'm just going to take Burning Tree Emissary, though. Saito obviously showed us...
That's Pheromophos. I'm sorry. I will not accept.
I'm calling it Burning Tree Emissary. So,
acceptable.
Speaking of the Emissary, I think Saito obviously showed us that card can do some explosive stuff in his mono red deck that splashed green, where it's mostly just like a free guy that jams onto the board. But we saw some different things coming about in this tournament. We saw it in Naya Humans, a very aggressive Naya Humans list that made 7th, which also ran like Experiment 1, sorry, and the Burning Tree Emissary and Boros Elite to just jam the board with gigantic creatures really fast. And it also got played in another deck, right? The Richard Nguyen Naya Zoo deck, I think, which has some pretty sweet interactions. Primarily using Restoration Angel, I think, to let you cast an extra spell, like Volcanic Strength or Mizium Mortars, primarily. That seems pretty sweet to just, like, turn 3 Restoration, like, turn 1, Pilgrim, whatever, turn 2, Emissary, Flintoff board, turn 3, like, attack, Restoration Angel, blink this boar, like, Mizium Mortars your guy, or, like, Volcanic Strength my guy. Like, that's really aggro. Like, just a lot of power coming at someone really fast. I know Saito also posted another list recently that had similar interactions. It runs like Gyre Sage, and it can go like Angel into Domri Raid on 5 mana, which is just downright horrifying, I think. So, I like that little guy. He's growing on me.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned Saito's list that we talked a little bit about last week, but I think going outside the top 8, like PNAPS was in 11th with literally the 75 Saito posted from Twitter. So, like... Yep. Clearly that deck is showing up as well. Alright, Steven, do you have any card choices for us?
I like Experiment 1, and I like Hellrider, because I like to attack them. And those cards can attack. I like that Experiment 1 showed up in a Champion of the Parish deck, because when I looked at the spoiler, I saw that it is a human Champion of the Parish is already an extremely aggressive 1-drop in that deck, and seeing Experiment 1 alongside it is pretty exciting to me. I'm not convinced that these are cards which are as exciting as turning a Restoration Angel into a ritual, but I'm pretty excited to see them doing well for now, at least. I really want Experiment 1 to do well, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just not quite sure where it goes. And so it's nice to see it popping up in different places and to see that it can make a top 8 in an event like this in multiple archetypes.
I'm glad I didn't take 2. Experiment 1 was my other one. But it was really sweet to see the Jund deck that has it showing up again. That was one of the cooler decks from the Atlanta Open, and we got to see it show up again in Edison. It's basically almost completely the same. So that deck might have legs, which is sweet because it looks awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect we will see that deck around. My other question from this top 8, before we move on, is what do you think of Esper, and do you think that Blind Obedience is going to be playing an increasing role in the control decks we see in the future? Obviously, there are 3 Blind Obedience in the Esper deck. They came in second, I think, at this event. It was in the top 4, certainly. So, Cedric.
So about Blind Obedience overall, I don't know. I think that card sucks. Yep. I actually haven't said that for a little while. I think a card sucks. I felt pretty good. It's been a couple weeks. I don't like. There's definitely some things that are nice about it, and again, it's a card I feel like you can play one of, potentially like 2 throughout your 75. But I don't feel like it's a card that you can play like 3 of in your main deck because it just doesn't have an effect on the board. It doesn't catch you up. When you play it on turn 2 and you're on the play, it's obviously fantastic against haste. Against the actual keyword haste, it's awesome. Against like a lot of other stuff, like your Not a Human deck that doesn't care about haste, it's just like, okay, my guy's tap, great. Like that doesn't matter. There are some like corner cases where it's like pretty good. You play Blind Obedience, then like you're attacking, and then your opponent has Restoration Angel, and it comes into play tap. You got him. Pretty big game. But I overall like I don't understand. Like I get it. Like it has Extort on it too, so it can like do some other things. It's really nice. I just don't think it's that good of a card. It has some uses in Modern too. Like whatever, its uses in Modern are good if your opponent is bad and they don't have an answer to your card after sideboard. Like I just don't understand why the card's seeing so much play right now. I think it's just it's like a mediocre card. I don't think you're going to see a lot of them moving forward. I don't think you're going to see 3 of them in Esper Control deck's main deck. I think you're going to see 1 or 2 max, like throughout the 75, maybe like 1 main, 1 board against decks that have Hellrider and Aristocrat and Thundermaw, stuff like that. And that's really it.
So you don't think it's the Jesus that is coming to save?
No, God no.
All right, Glenn, what do you think?
I think Blind Obedience is fine. I kind of perceive it as like an improved Torpor Orb, in that it's like a narrow card. Or I shouldn't say it's a seemingly narrow card with surprisingly wide applications. Like it gets a lot of random things that you just wouldn't expect and does some work and seems fine. That said, like I don't think Esper Control is like a thing. There are times when it's correct to beat face, and there are times when it's correct to sit back and try to counter spells and sweep and cast the card Think Twice. And this is not that time. This is the time when people are playing like multiple different versions of Hellrider decks. Like that's the time this is.
So how many times would you say that it is correct to be thinking? Is it a think once time? Is it a think nonce time? Like
that's the problem. That's exactly how you can measure the format. In fact, if your control deck only gets to cast Think Twice once before dying or winning, then you shouldn't be playing a control deck.
All right. Willing to buy that. Okay. Steven, thoughts?
I like the card a decent amount, but it's a pretty uncomfortable card for me. It's like the role it plays, it has good utility, and I think the extort mechanic on it is very powerful in a deck like this. I think that if you want it in your main deck, you want to be building around the extort mechanic. Like you want to be dragging the game out enough to be getting a lot of value out of that and be cutting other things from your deck to sort of rely on the extort. And in that way, it can fill a pretty good role in a control deck as something which comes down on turn 2 and it is relevant, but then continues to give you incremental advantage throughout the rest of the game, which is a pretty sweet thing to have in a control deck. The problem just being like whether your control deck can survive to that late in the game and whether it can actually afford to cast it on turn 2. And I'm not sure that it can. So I have very mixed feelings, basically. I could see it becoming common as a 2 to 3 out main deck in this format as the format evolves, and I could also see it just dropping off entirely.
One quick hit that I did forget. There's this 9th place list that is like mono white from Jared Bloomberg. That is like mono white humans, 33 creatures, 23 planes, 4 Blind Obedience is his main deck. And I feel like that's like a reasonable way to use Blind Obedience. Like when you're on the play, like You play Blind Obedience. You know, you get some beatdowns. You play Blind Obedience. They can't block. You get to keep beating down. You know, when you draw, you know, your crappy War Falcons after they're stabilizing, you get to actually ding them. And maybe that's like, you know, those couple of dings are the way to finish them off. I think that's an interesting way to go about using Blind Obedience. I don't know if it's the best way, but I do like that it's like a little bit outside the box thinking. And you know, a different way to try to go about winning with the card. I don't know if that's the best way to use the card again, but that's another way that you can look at it. It's an obscure card that we haven't really seen this kind of card, especially with Extort tacked on, to make it kind of good. I don't think it's great or anything, but I think that at least that's kind of a unique way to use it.
That's a similar utility to how we saw the Esper Spirits deck using it in Atlanta, where it's basically like the Feeling of Dread fill-in.
Yeah.
You're just using it to kind of like pseudo clear the way, pseudo not die at the same time. Like,
yeah.
It should also be noted it's really good against Steven's dream of the Ball Lightning guy. Like, it makes him really sad.
Spark Trooper.
He's going to break through at the Pro Tour.
He was an all-star in my sealed. I played him as
God,
a
I hope
D6
so.
to avoid dying all the time. Not even kidding.
What is
Not
that
kidding at
thing
all.
called? Natural Spring? The like 5-mana gain 7?
Yep, I was playing 4-mana Natural Spring in that sealed.
Very nice.
Did it. This Heroes Reunion is expensive.
And hard
a little
to
hard to
cast.
play in my deck, to be totally honest.
Expensive and hard to cast.
Alright, and last but not least, before we get to the meat and potatoes of today's show, let us go to the Legacy Grab Bag. The Legacy Open was won by Zach Mullen with Sneak and Show, a show and tell deck which can, in fact, in theory, beat a Goblin Charbelcher. There was a top 8 of 2 Sneak and Show, 1 Bug, 1 Blue-White-Red Delver, 1 Ant, 1 12-Post, 1 Dredge, and 1 Esper Stoneblade. Ladies and gentlemen, pick your thing. Cedric.
Sabre, I wish I had the carnival music on right now. All right, here we go. Pick your thing. I'm trying to find that deck list really quick. I mean, Zach Mullen's winning picture is really good. That's a thing to pick. So I think that Sneak and Show is like the breakout thing in this tournament, right? Where the Sneak and Show lists like don't change ever. Like the same deck, they don't ever really get updated. They have the same like sideboard, same game plan, and everyone's always just like, "Is this deck good or not good?" And no one can really tell. But it's got like some play to it. And every time I see it on camera, especially the thing that jumps out to me the most is like when I was in Dallas covering Will Craddock playing the deck. It's just like when you're playing a blue deck against this deck, because this is a combo deck, you don't know what you're supposed to counter, and I think that makes it very difficult. And this is a point I brought up on camera multiple different times. It's like, this deck is obviously good against an aggressive strategy because, you know, it's trying to cast Show and Tell against an aggressive deck. That's obviously very good. But you would think that this deck would be bad against, like, a blue deck, like a permission deck, like Rug or something. And I don't think it is, because when you're playing Rug, you don't know what spells you're supposed to counter when you're playing against this deck, because, like, if you counter the Ponders, the Preordains, and the Brainstorms, then they're just going to cast Show and Tell and just go, you don't have any more counter spells left, you're dead. Because if Emrakul or Gristlebrand come into play, then they obviously can't beat that. On the flip side, if they let you resolve Brainstorms and Ponders and Preordains, then you just build your hand perfectly, and then you cast Show and Tell, and you're going to be able to win the fight over that. Or, like, your first Show and Tell is just like a bluff or whatever, and then your next one's going to get him. What have you. And that's why I think this deck is, like, pretty good, and I feel like it's, like, super underrepresented in the format. Just because, like, I think it's a really difficult deck to play against if you're blue permission, and if you're an aggressive deck, you're definitely a dog to this deck. So, like, what's this deck bad against? Like, other combo decks? And if that's the case, I feel like you can sideboard to beat other combo decks. So I think you can make like a pretty strong argument for this being like one of the tier 1 decks in the format. You know, if people are moving towards like Punishing Fire and stuff like that, I feel like you just crush those people. And then I don't really know like what you're bad against besides, I don't know, like maybe you're bad against Belcher. You do have 4 Force Wills. You can sideboard traps. You know, you can board in things to beat them. So like, what is your matchup where you're just like, I can't win? Besides like Hypergenesis, I don't really know what it is. So I think this deck's awesome, and I'm not really surprised to see it do well. Will Craddock won the Legacy tournament with it in Dallas, and obviously Corbett Gray does really well with this deck every time he plays it up here in Seattle or Portland, so I guess that gets no respect.
Alright, one quick point about Sneak and Show. I was looking at Ravitz' list, which was third.
That's what I'm looking at right now.
And one thing that struck me as interesting is he actually fully dead to his opponent just playing a Caracas and saying go? Because I think he is. Like, I think he's just like, oh, okay. I'm just like,
No, not at all. No, you just have to go through the sneak attack route. Like,
Yeah.
you play sneak attack, you activate it, like, you put Emrakul into play, and you're just like, attack step, and like, Krakus, and you're like, alright, pay another red, put it back into play.
Oh, okay,
Kill all
yeah.
your stuff.
Because
Yeah.
they can't let you annihilate or trigger. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. I was thinking like you'd attack and it'd go back, but yeah, okay. Alright, fair enough. Glenn, pick your thing.
What you're really just seeing with Sneak and Show is the fruits of 2 months of labors of me trying to slowly reinsert this deck back into the format because it's sweet.
Yes.
Very sweet.
There's,
I've actually
there's
asked
a
like
way for you to take credit. You'll
a
find
number
it.
of quick questions have mentioned or addressed Sneak and Show's absence from the field over the past couple months.
Quick
So
question, why aren't you playing Sneak and Show?
yeah, that was one of them probably. So my diabolical efforts have borne fruit. You're welcome. Our tentacled lord has returned. But my thing for this tournament is actually going to be the blue-white red Delver deck in 4th. Because it's basically somebody took Rug and they decided to smush their Nimble Mongooses with their Tarmogoyfs and get a Geist-to-Saint draft. And then they have the rest of their deck. Like, I just needed to play some more spells in my deck, so I'll just go ahead and combine these 2 cards into 1 card and then try to beat them to death with that one. It's kind of interesting. I feel like it has to be a little worse off against Supreme Verdict, but that card's kind of disappeared since Miracle's kind of disappeared over the past month or whatever. So it's kind of cool. Like, I could see myself sleeving this up. It's really awkward to have Swords to Plowshares in my Lightning Bolt deck, but, you know, sometimes you gotta kill a guy. It's cool.
Shouldn't we
Geist
just
to
be
Saint Trap does some heavy lifting. He can definitely make up the difference, and the fact that this deck gets to play Grim Lavamancer, which is a sacrifice that Rug has made in the past, but has never done so lightly, pretty sweet. And Grim Lavamancer is a sweet card to cast against a Deathrite Shaman in general as well. So.
Alright, Steven, select a thing.
By far, the most exciting thing to me about this tournament is that there is no Jund in, like, the ring or something. In the state, maybe? Like, we just got rid of that deck. And good riddance, but never comes back. Do I even have to say anything more? Like, I could,
That's fair.
but
Does,
you got rid of
Fire?
does
that
anyone want to
crap.
talk about the no land deck before we move on?
Oops, all spells.
Yeah.
Nope.
I mean,
That's sort of
not-
was sort of my thought, yeah.
definitely not good, right? It's just the full, like, why are you playing that deck instead of Belcher, basically?
It seems like a Belcher deck that also gets to lose to dredge cards, which
Yeah.
seems like pretty exciting. Like a bad Belcher and dredge deck, like
I mean, it's, like, really cool or whatever, like, what the deck's trying to do, but, like, I mean, cool doesn't win tournaments, really, so. But killing someone with a cannon does. So, there's that.
alright. Ballin'. Good legacy graphic. Alright, let's get Pro Tour Fantasy previewing. Let's do this business. So I'm going to put the links in the chat. There was an article on the Mothership talking about the upcoming Pro Tour. Obviously, the Pro Tour is coming this weekend, which is going to happen at the end of the week. It is in Montreal. The Pro Tour Gate Crash. They will be battling it out in Standard. And for those of you who are looking forward to watching the Pro Tour, you can pick cards in a variety of topics to try and see which cards will see the most play in the top 200 deck lists, or is it top 64? Does anyone know, like, what exactly we're picking? No? No one knows
Yes.
the rules?
I mean,
Teh.
I'm picking cards, and I'm gonna feel good about being right and make fun of you guys when you're wrong.
Yeah. I
That's the game I'm playing.
believe we should mention that for the last Pro Tour, Glenn Jones was the show winner. He did the best.
Shocking.
The last Pro Tour was a modern Pro Tour with a fairly defined format. The big surprise of that Pro Tour was that everyone and their grandmother showed up with Jund. So this one should be a little bit more exciting. We're gonna go through the list. Everyone's gonna say what their choices are, why they think that card is good, why they think other cards are not good, etc., etc. We're gonna start with Planeswalker because it's the first one on the list. I think this is actually probably the most interesting category in the whole ballot. I am on Garruk Relentless, but I am willing to believe there are arguments for at least 3 other Planeswalkers in this slot. and I'm on that one because I think it's the easiest to splash, so it can go in the most decks. Cedric, what are you doing?
I'm going with a Garrick as well, of the Primal Hunter variety. I believe that it will see play in some Jund decks, some Naya decks. Maybe there's some brewers out there with a little bit of a mono green deck. Yes. Who knows? But I feel like this card is pretty good, and I think this is the best one. I think Garrick Relentless sucks. I think that Damirati is okay, but there's not enough homes for it. And I think that if you don't pick your Primal Hunter, you're stupid.
Dang.
Yeah.
Alright. Glenn, what are you doing?
I was just curious. Did you guys both pick the same Garrick? I thought
he picked Big Garrick and I picked Little Garrick.
Okay.
I have the father.
He has the good one that can only go in triple green decks, and I have the slightly more versatile, slightly worse one that can go in more decks.
Sure. I agree that both of those are fine choices. If you were watching my stream, anyone, I actually went over my ballot earlier this week, which had Primal Hunter as the Planeswalker of choice. However, I have since changed it.
Oh, wow.
I might change it back, but Saito's work with Burning Tree Emissary has got me a little more interested in Domri Raid. And I think he's got a lot of potential. One of the upsides of this category is that you won't be horribly punished for being wrong, because I think it's a really close race. So, you're not going to lose a lot of points if you just happen to not get the right one. You're probably not going to outright win, but, there are pretty good arguments for all of them. I think that those three Planeswalkers are far and away, the ones that are in contention. I think Liliana is probably in fourth. Maybe Jace is in fourth. Memory Adept, not whatever the other one builds.
Garbage.
Thoughts. Yeah. So I think that's kind of where the Planeswalker is. And it's nice because I think Planeswalker has mostly been an easy category over the past few competitions. So it's nice to see it mixed up. It is pretty awkward because it's the highest point category at 5 points. So you kind of don't want to miss, but at the same time, you're not getting punished that bad.
You're on Domri, is that correct?
I'm currently on Domri. It could easily change to either Garrick by the end of the week.
Domri seems like the high variance win big choice.
Oh yeah,
I think
Primal Hunter's the safe pick, and Domri's the high variance pick. This is Ari and I had this exact conversation actually this week when we were talking.
I think it
about
has a big swing, but if it's actually good, you're just gonna obliterate everyone.
Now, before we get to Steven,
Oh, go ahead, Cedric. Go ahead.
Glenn, you judge me pre-show for stepping outside of the box.
I don't think I'm outside the box.
Yeah,
I think the
yeah,
format's
here you
changing,
are.
buddy.
Yet here you are, Kettle. Okay, judging
Whoa,
the pot.
whoa.
Yeah.
I don't have Soren up there, man. I'm being a reasonable human being.
I feel like you judge me when we're off camera for stepping outside of the box. Okay.
I thought we were on
so
camera when I said
That's
that. I'll
so
say it
tough.
again.
Not so tough when we're on camera, are ya? Huh?
I thought we were. I don't need a camera to contradict you, say.
That's
And I
definitely
certainly
true.
don't need one to dissuade me.
All you need is my face. That's it. Because that's what you'll say it to. All right, go ahead,
Yeah.
Steven.
I think Domri sucks. Right now. I'm on Big Papa Garrick because he's good looking and he's got to where it counts.
Okay, that's not where I expected you to go, but well played. All right, that's more than I ever wanted to know about various Garricks. The next category is large creature, which is a creature which costs 5 or more. Am I gonna go first on all of them? Whatever. I am on Thragtusk, which I think is
Really?
the super obvious standard pick. Cedric, what are you on?
Thragtusk. I don't even think it's close. I want to make sure I'm right about this. It's large creatures cost 5 mana or more.
Yeah, 5 or more.
Okay, I think it has to be Thragtusk. I can't imagine what's going to get second place in this category besides Angel of Glory's Rise. I guess.
Nah,
So,
Thundermaw.
Yeah, Thundermaw is the other somewhat.
You think
reasonable
Thundermaw? Okay, sure.
He'll
Yeah,
get
I'm
second.
going with
And
Thragtusk.
depending on, it's theoretically reasonable the metagame could, shift enough that Thundermaw Hellkite actually wins, but I don't think that's likely. I just consider it, not impossible. I'm not willing to say it's impossible. That is all I'm trying to express. Thragtusk is, a 90% favorite, easily, so...
So you are on Thragtusk, is that what we already gathered
Yeah.
for this one?
I guess maybe, Obzit. I think Obzat's going to get probably third, but, yeah, I take Thragtusk first.
So would you guys agree that Jund is the favorite deck going into this tournament?
Yes.
So
Really?
At a
it's
minimum?
just like exactly the same thing as the last time we did this, and we're
I
just
don't
gonna
know.
get cards.
I don't know if I would call it the favorite, but I think there will be a fair number of Jund decks.
I think that as far as the balloting goes, Jund's core cards share across more archetypes than most other archetypes' cards. So that just makes like the ballot's going to be like all Jund cards because that's just how the ballot works. Like,
I agree with that.
we've
I
got
don't-
Naya Humans decks playing Searing Spear, Mono Red decks playing Searing Spear, Jund decks playing Searing Spear. Like, there we go. Like that kind of thing is just happening in every category.
Right.
Like,
I don't think the cards are so good in Jund that's going to be the best deck in the format, but I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
Like,
I just think that Jund has a pretty large metagame share, and so do many of its cards in other decks.
Yeah, okay.
I want a Thundermaw Hellkite. I'm willing to bow to your reason and recognize that Thragtusk is going to have more copies, but I want Thundermaw Hellkite.
You've got a good shot on it. I mean, I wouldn't fault
I'm not
you.
sure that I'm going to select it.
Why not?
I don't want to watch people.
How is one of us supposed to win if we all just pick the same cards?
Well,
I'll win. Well, except for you, because dominate.
Dom, you're stupid.
evil cackle. So what is? I don't know. I don't think Obsidian is going to be in like the top 5. I was going to go like Angel of Glorious Rise and then maybe like Zealous Conscripts or something like over that monster.
I don't think conscripts will see much play. But I think Obsidian will see more play than conscripts.
Me too.
Okay. Okay.
People play bad decks at Pro Tours too, Adam.
I have done. Thank you.
Just saying.
Have done. Alright. Medium creature. This is one of the other more interesting categories, I think. Maybe, maybe not. This is a creature that costs like 3 to 4, is that correct? I am on the Mighty Lumberjack, which is Huntmaster of the Fells. Cedric, what are you on?
I'm on Restoration Angel. I don't even think it's really close either, personally.
I don't think it's close either, but I think it's Huntmaster of the Fells. Huntmaster just goes in more decks. There is a lot of overlap for both of them, but Huntmaster has like some red-green like aggro deck sideboard in. That's like a tiny thing. It has the Reanimator deck. It has Jund. It has Naya. It has some the Boros the Naya Humans deck. That's a lot of decks. And Restoration Angel has like blue, white, red. It has less copies in the Naya Humans deck. It has the same copies in Naya. It doesn't go in Jund at all. And like Esper decks don't run the full play set if they run any. So I think that it hurts.
You're forgetting about your bruise, Glenn.
The bruise, the Restoration Angel bruise. Oh, okay.
I think that your pro teams are going to try to make control decks with Restoration Angel. What's to say that like your Bant control deck can't serve?
That's a bold call. I mean, you might be right. I don't think that you're likely to be right, but you could be right.
I'm prepared to be right as I rub myself about
It's
being
just
right.
an EV game. You just gotta guess.
I think I'm right.
All right,
Good luck.
Steven, what are you thinking you're right with?
I'm definitely on a Huntmaster. Very, very easily.
All right. So I was having this discussion with Steven like yesterday, the day before. If you were gonna pick a non-hunt, like just a pure red card, would you go with Hellrider or what was the card you suggested? Boros Reckoner? Was that? I think that was what you said.
Yes.
Like after
I
Restoration Angel and Huntmaster, which I think are like the top two cards here, you have like the Hellrider, Geist of Saint Traft. Is there anything else in this category? Not really.
Reckoner, Boros Reckoner, right? Or did you guys say that already?
Well, yeah, I said that like as opposed.
Okay.
It seems like you either take Reckoner or Hellrider if you're trying to hit like the demographic of decks that play those cards. Like, which one do you think is better?
That's close. Probably Reckoner. Hellrider has slightly less decks, I think.
I think Hellrider has slightly less decks. I think Reckoner goes into like mono red, like red green Saito, like Naya Saito, and then blue white red decks. People are talking about playing Reckoner in that deck versus Hellrider just being like mono R, like red green Saito, and then like I feel like Zombies is dead. So
I think that blue, white, red is the difference maker in that comparison. Like, that's what puts Reckoner over the top of Hellrider.
Huh.
Alrighty. Thank you.
I think that Hellrider will take it. And so, like, we can go on record as me being wrong.
We'll take the prize for either third or fourth best medium creature.
Woo!
Yeah.
Alright.
High stakes competition.
Small creature. There were some interesting choices in the Wizards article, as there were in,
Yeah, there
in
were.
many categories. I am on Avacyn's Pilgrim, and I think it will be unbelievably not close. Cedric, you may go.
Wow, you think it's unbelievably not close?
Yes, I think Avacyn's Pilgrim will destroy the competition.
Well, I might as well just walk out of the room with what I'm gonna pick.
Cloudfin Raptor?
I have Ash. Is that what?
That's a bold choice.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I would have gone for Cackler there, like if you were gonna make that pick.
All right.
But maybe Zealot is. I don't know. They're like pretty similar.
All right. I don't feel as bad now. Yet until Glenn makes fun of me.
It's just Pilgrim, not close. Next person.
Is there anyone else on the call? Wait. I'm on Pilgrim too, so.
Why is it Pilgrim?
It goes in more decks, and it goes in more popular decks.
There's like 9 humans, Naya, and that's like it?
The
And some Jund
Reanimator
decks,
things, and
like-
yeah.
What maniac is playing this card in Jund?
We can find them, buddy.
Why is Pilgrim better than Arbor Elf in Jund?
It's probably not, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on your mana base.
I guess you could like not be playing that many forests.
If we're
I
assuming
guess
that
if you're playing the weird duels instead of the shock duels.
I mean, it's just Avacyn's Pilgrim. Let's talk about something else.
It's unbelievable. I will take the field versus Avacyn's Pilgrim. Any dollar amount.
I actually think that might be close. Like, like, I'm not even messing with you. Avacyn's Pilgrim might outnumber like every other 2 or less casting cost creature.
I think it's the field. I don't think it's even close.
I think Avacyn's Pilgrim is gonna crush it. What do you want to? Do you want to bet? I will give you. I take Avacyn's Pilgrim as the winner. You win if any other card wins.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Dinner.
Okay, that's a bet.
All right.
Hold on. We have to finish this bet. Are you in Vegas for the Star City?
Yeah, we'll do it there.
Game.
Gotta make sure he can collect.
Cashing in on the finest meal Vegas has. That's it.
I mean, I was gonna be polite when I made you buy me dinner, but sure, I'll go big if you want. Like,
Tom Phillippe.
yeah, that action's booked.
I enjoy the chat suggestion, Shamble Shark or Bust. That is a bold claim. I can respect that.
Very bold. I like it.
Alright. Instant.
One sec, I gotta add to my phone. Cedric owes me dinner.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
You got 3 people coming.
I'm gonna go on Twitter really quick and tell everyone that Glenn owes me dinner. 1 second.
Alright, let's get a. I use photographs to remember things, so this is our Cedric owes me dinner photograph. Alright, there we go. I just realized how much like a memento my phone seems now. Alright. What were we on next?
We are on Instant. I am on Searing Spear. Cedric, you may go.
Searing Spear.
A bold
Hey, Cedric
choice.
got one right. It's Searing Spear.
Yo. So what's like second, third, and fourth?
Pretty hard to call, I think, actually.
Wasn't this another one where they like didn't take Searing Spear, but they took Skullcrack or something like that?
Yeah. I don't want to speak ill of the.
I do. Get him. No. Yeah, I think
I
Searing
definitely
Spear
remember
goes
it being
into
like
most
something
things.
weird. Oh yeah, Sphinx's Revelation went before Searing Spear. It goes in literally one deck, or I guess 2 technically.
What
if
if,
Esp is a deck.
what if you want to board in Searing or Sphinx of Revelation? Just like
I love me a Sphinx's Revelation, but Searing Spear goes in like 18 decks, like, and it's a 4 of in all of them too. Like,
I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of people who approach this exercise as like, which card is better? And it's like,
Yeah,
that's
that's not what it is.
what they're asking you. So, I mean, you can answer that question, but it's not the one being posed to you, so you will score poorly on the test.
Right. Like, I think Abrupt Decay is going to be a good card to run in this tournament, but I don't think it's going to be the most popular instant. That's just silly. Like,
Yeah. I think Abrupt Decay is awesome, too. I wanted to pick it, but I think it's Searing Spear by a lot.
I think it's Searing Spear, then Abrupt Decay, then Boros Charm, then something.
You think more Abrupt Decays than Boros Charms? I think that's kind of bold. Not necessarily wrong, but just...
I agree with him on that.
Okay.
Maybe Boros Charm isn't enough sideboards, actually.
I'm interested to see where Selesnya Charm fits in. I feel like that's probably be up there somewhere.
Over there?
No, nowhere not on the call.
I don't know. I think it's an instant that we'll see some play.
That was nice of you.
All right.
Just lie to me. That's fine.
Let us sorcery. I see the chat has loudly declared for Farseek. I think that will be very, very obviously wrong. I will take Pillar of Flame. Cedric, you may go.
Man, Adam, you're so
Give me that high five. Give me that high five, Adam. Ah! Pillar of Flame, ship it.
Yeah, Pillar Flame, Farseek probably second. Like, Pillar Flame, again, goes in significantly more decks. Specifically, Mono Red, which will be like 15% of the field. Like,
under second dinner, ship it.
I'm literally ballparking. I'm not going to bet on something I don't care about. You're up.
Alright, Steven, do you have a non-Pillar of Flame card?
Nope. Can't help you.
Man, that's weird. It's so obvious that we all picked it.
Dagger.
Good Magic card.
It's a solid Magic the Gathering card. So...
What? You'd start with Farseek? Like, where would you go after that?
Oh, for sorceries?
We don't cast sorceries anymore.
Jesus. Yeah,
I thought we call them planeswalkers. Do we?
That is a good question.
Is that not a thing? Probably like, I don't know, Supreme Verdict or Terminus. One of those two, maybe. Yeah. Mulch.
Mortars is like kind of a card.
Yeah, I guess Mizzia Mortars might make it third. Sure, that's within reason. I think that's more reasonable than the ones I suggested. So.
Bonfire.
That's kind of a card too.
I think Mortars is probably gonna.
I didn't say it was a good card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Mortars will edge it out just because it sees a little more sideboard play.
Alright.
But that's like very close, I'm sure, as a race.
Alright. And now we get to the fun like categories because all of the choices are very bad.
Yeah.
Enchantments. I was on Rancor yesterday. Today I am on Rest in Peace. Because I think that will see more play in more decks. Cedric.
I'm going to be the bigger man here. I was going to switch to Rest in Peace because you just said it and I forgot it existed. And your answer makes more sense than mine. But I am going to go with Rancor. Yes, I am.
I think it's Rancor, and I think that it will defeat Rest in Peace. While it shows up in significantly less decks, Rest in Peace is showing up as generally a 2 of, maybe a 3 of in sideboards. And Rancor is, when it's played, almost always a 4 of. So in order to beat Rancor, Rest in Peace has to be showing up at like a significantly higher the number of decks it shows up in have to be a significantly higher ratio than Rancor decks. Not like actual 2-to-1, but like approaching it. And the other issue is that the Reanimator decks we've been seeing actually have been prepped for Rest in Peace specifically and have been very vulnerable to another card. So slots that might go to Rest in Peace will probably be going to that card, which is my pick for Artifact. So I won't say it till then.
Oh.
But it's obviously very
big secret. Okay, Steven.
Are they at that level, Glenn? I feel like you just out-leveled yourself. I'm on Rest in Peace. You could persuade me, though. Like,
I think that it's probably close, but I honestly foresee like the Brian Braun-Duin, Brad Nelson Humanimator deck like literally can't beat a Grafdigger's Cage if it's put in play. You just cast on turn 1, and they should just concede and go to the next game. Like, it's over.
Game's flat over.
Because they built their deck specifically for Rest in Peace. And I feel like on the Pro Tour, like, that's a very accessible level for people to get to. If they want to board against that deck, I kind of think that's where they'll go.
That is
Alright.
my artifact.
So what do you think after Rancor and Thingamabob? Like Volcanic Strength, Blind Obedience, O-Ring, something
Yeah,
like
I think
that?
all of those are honestly like pretty equivalent choices at that point.
Alrighty. Artifact. I am on a card which I think is bad, and I will probably switch to something else. I am on
Spotlight.
Rakdos Keyrune because it was like the card I thought was best of the terrible artifacts.
Yeah.
But it's probably a bad choice, and I suspect Cage is better. Cedric.
I'm going with Rakdos Keyrune. I was going to select the Glaring Spotlight up until we went live. Yeah, I was going to get a little frisky, get outside the box, but then Glenn made fun of me, so I got back in the box. Rakdos Keyrune it is.
Back out of
Kudos.
the box.
You managed to pick a playable card for the Pro Tour draft over an unplayable one.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I think Keyrune. If the question was which card will show up in main decks, I think Keyrune very easily wins this category. Obviously, the issue is as we saw with Billy's list, the way the format's going, people aren't dedicating themselves to the ramp as much because they have to interact with the opponent on earlier turns. So tapping out for a Keyrune on turn 3 can actually be pretty dangerous. So I expect Keyrune to be like a 1 to 2 of in Jund decks and only Jund decks. Whereas Grafdigger's Cage is a sideboard card available to a lot of decks, and when it's sideboarded, it will show up between 1 and 3, pretty commonly at those numbers. I don't think it'll hedge towards any one number in particular. I guess probably average 2. So that means it's got a pretty good shot at beating Keyrune, just in its ability to be played in a large variety of places.
You're all about the upside.
Yep.
Alright.
That's me.
I think sort of the key to this category is that artifacts are colorless, so they can go on any deck. And if you pigeonhole yourself into a Rakdos Keyrune, which can only go on one deck, or Runeshiner's Pike, which can only go on one deck, or something like that, like picking artifacts which self-restrict themselves, I think you're sort of losing out on a lot of the potential of the category. So that's why I'm on Grafdigger's Cage.
I kind of agree with you, but I feel like it's hard to see that because all of these artifacts are so bad. Like, I'm looking at them and I'm like, which of these will have 5 in the top 64 lists? Like, one guy will have one of them.
I think Grafdigger's Cage could have a lot more than 5. I think it will.
I think Grafdigger's Cage is the better pick, but I'm not convinced that there will be a ton of them.
Yeah, I think that both of these cards will be in pretty small numbers compared to some of the other categories for sure.
And now we have some boring categories. Non-basic land. I am on Stomping Grounds because it produces both green and red mana, both of which are very good. Cedric.
Sacred Foundry is my choice, Adam, because unlike your land, my land taps for white instead of green. And for that reason...
Well played, sir.
Thank you. For that reason,
Wow.
that's right. It's going to go into the old blue-white-red deck. It's going to go in blue-white-red, Naya, Boros, something I'm not thinking of. It's the one.
All right.
No, you.
It's also in Human Reanimator. Ding.
In most of those decks is also the card Stomping Ground, which goes in Jund. And also just, I think that the decks, specifically the Jund decks, will occupy a pretty large metagame share. There are a variety of them. And Saito's red-green deck also gains Stomping Ground. So, yeah, I think it's Stomping Ground. And the Wizards guys actually bricked Stomping Ground in the article, which was the thing I found just the most ridiculous.
Yeah, that was the thing, all right.
It was so nuts to me.
When we first picked, we were immediately like, Shotgun Breeding Pool! And it was like, which format are you watching?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure of these 6 that were picked, I think Breeding Pool will probably come in last, actually. And went first.
I don't know. It's
under article.
The first guy was just like yoink, and everyone else was like, "What did he take?"
So I think that Sacred Foundry is definitely in competition. I think so is Temple Garden, but I do think it's Stomping Ground.
All right. I don't know. Maybe he knows things we don't, man. Maybe Ban Hexproof is just gonna steamroll every single person, and then that is
Yeah, it'll be splashing red for Boros Charm, and to do that, they need Sacred Foundry. So, perfect.
All right, Steven. select your non-basic land.
So Sacred Foundry is the land for the format I want to watch, and Stomping Ground is the land for the format that I am watching.
Come on, this is unbelievable.
It's basically how it
It's
works.
pretty believable.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I want people to cast Navarro's Charms and everything, but I think they're going to cast the Thragtusks.
Alright. Where do you guys think Cavern of Souls comes in? How many dual lands do you think are in front of that card?
Probably 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Counter
I would
spells are really bad right now, so the only decks that are playing it are like the decks that legitimately use it for fixing, really, which is like humans.
Yeah,
And
I
I
think
guess
Cavern of
that's
Souls is horrible. Yeah, I think it's a terrible pick.
Sad day for Cavern of Souls.
I'm going to say, like, I'm going to put it 6th.
Okay.
I'm just going to be a little unreasonable here.
Now, the last category has appeared, I think, since our last Pro Tour. I'm not sure this one actually happened at the last one. It is a new set card, cards from Gatecrash, which is really interesting until you realize that Stomping Ground is from Gatecrash, so I have that card again.
I have Sacred Foundry again.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been awkward if you picked Stomping Ground this time. So Stomping Ground.
It'd be sort of interesting if they made it so you couldn't pick the same card twice.
That
So you had to be...
Yeah.
It seems like it would be interesting, and then don't you just take Sacred Foundry and Stomping Ground, and it's not
Right.
actually interesting? Like,
Yeah,
the
that's
upside,
true, I
like,
guess.
if you're not confident, this gives you a way to hedge, you know?
It's like,
No hedging.
make
I'm all
sure
in.
that you cannot win.
well, hedging seems like the wrong... Like, they don't pay to top 32 in this competition, boys and
No,
girls.
they don't.
Yeah. That's right. F a hedge.
Mono fences.
I wish to be...
That was well put, Adam.
Yeah.
All the prizes are at the top of this one.
I would like to be the first person they don't pay at this event.
Yeah.
Glenn, are you doubling down on your
Of
land?
course. Do I look like a fool?
No, you don't. Steven.
Yeah, I'm on Stomping Ground.
Okay.
Are there cards that are non-basic lands?
This
in
is
Gatecrash?
yeah. This was like
actually,
a big opportunity. We were gonna add a category. We could think about things, and then it's just like
I
they
feel
added
like this
they
was-
added a category which
yeah.
said, find the picture of the card you just put to the left. And you're
Yeah.
like,
To
I
be
feel like
fair,
it was
like, if
very
you really
awful.
thought it was going to be Temple Garden, then I guess you would pick something different here, but... Like Temple Garden for non-basic land. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just Snap Stomping Ground.
Alright. And the tiebreaker, the player character, which I don't think has ever mattered in the history of anything, I am on Reed Duke, because he seems like a fine gentleman, and he bought me pizza at the last Grand Prix I was at.
Wow.
Aw.
Really?
Well, it was sort of pizza by proxy. It wasn't like straight up for me. I was splitting a pizza with Jarvis, and he bought it for Jarvis. So I freeloaded, because that's how I roll.
The
Okay.
truth.
Well, you paid it back now.
Cedric, yeah, this was a good payback. I will run this deal again for anyone in the audience.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the one and only Jerry Thompson.
Ooh, I like it.
It sticks with your drafting strategy.
That's right. I'm all in. Look, man, he's got to break through sometime. He can't just not top 8 these things forever. For Christ's sake, I have a top 8. And he is so much better than me, it's not even close to fair. Just crack through already, Jerry. Good God, man.
While Jerry is a close friend, and I hope that he wins the entire tournament,
Yeah,
for my Pro Tour player tiebreaker, I chose the man who makes me the most depressed when I watch Magic tournaments, Yuya Watanabe. Because
Okay.
he is
Is that
so
just 'cause
very
he's,
good,
like, much better than everyone
and
else?
it is very obnoxious
Yeah.
to watch.
It is a little bit obnoxious, and he doesn't even he doesn't do anything like super sweet and exciting like
Oh,
Kenji
he's
used
just
to
like-
do, where you'd be like, look, like he's beating everyone, and his opponent just tried to give him a game win, and he was like, no, stop that, I will beat you some other way, and then he would. But
That's right.
okay, so you have made the correct decision. That's bold, Steven. Who have you picked?
earbud just fell out. I picked Kibbles.
Should you have
The Brian Kibler in a format where Stomping Ground and Temple Garden and Sacred Foundry are the three most common ones.
You think he's just gonna find a dragon and just beat them all to death?
This actually makes.
I can respect that reason.
This
It
is a
feels
good
more like
reason.
a sort of karmic justice reason, but
It's sort of like a feng shui pick
right,
in a
right.
way.
It
Like
just
all
fits
the other
rest of the
cards
ballot.
are red, green creatures. So
Yeah,
Makes
he'll probably have the best green deck, that's for sure. And as a result, Channel Fireball will have the best green deck. Not sure if they're going to play it. Don't know if it's going to be good, but if there's like a Damirati deck to be had, you know Kibler has found it and just laughing at everyone for not having it yet.
He's got some monsters.
I hope
He's
not.
here
I
to
hope
punch
he found
you.
the Garrett Primal Hunter deck.
Yeah,
That's
me
gonna
too.
be awkward.
Me too. I didn't think about that. Good thinking, Steven.
Yeah, that's good. These are way sweeter categories than those land ones. Those categories
Yeah.
sucked. Alright, so this will be an exciting Pro Tour Fantasy roster. This should be a fun Pro Tour. I'm looking forward to watching it. I think this is an interesting standard format, but I feel like a lot of the archetypes we've seen, because it's been 2 weeks and we've only had Star City Opens, a lot of the archetypes we've seen are like reasonable archetypes where I don't love the card choices, and I think the Pro Tour will give us a lot better sort of data to work with in terms of what's actually going on in this standard format, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes down. You guys have any sort of general thoughts on the Pro Tour before we sign off?
So is this the first time, and I'm probably wrong about this, but is this like the first time where we've had just like, I feel like the Star City tournaments has kind of dictated where the format is going, whereas normally for a Pro Tour or whatever, like you don't have anything to really dictate that, you're just really guessing a lot. And there's still obviously some guessing going on here, but I feel like, we have a pretty good idea of where this format is going, how people are building decks, that sort of thing. Is this the first time we've had like a tournament series like this, like before the tournament, like 2 large tournaments, like dictate what the format's going to look like for the Pro Tour?
That's an interesting question, actually. I'm not sure. Could be.
What was the last standard Pro Tour? I can't actually remember.
Honolulu?
Was it?
Yep. I was there.
Okay.
And, I mean, there was a lot of guessing game going on there. Like, there was the there was a Spirits deck that, like, Team SCG Black played, and Channel Fireball. They broke it by showing up at RAM, or whatever.
Yeah.
But there was no tournament before that.
I mean, there was definitely a tournament before that, but it did not have significant impact, I don't think. Like, the Open Series always runs on a release weekend.
Wasn't
like
that
no
like
one else runs
a
tournaments
format
then.
that didn't super change, though? It was just like,
Right.
there are Delver decks, and then there were still Delver decks, and they delvingly into the top 8.
I believe that is what happened.
That's when, like, Thalia came out or whatever, and everyone thought that Thalia was going to change everything because, like, Delver was bad. So, like, Blue-White Humans was huge coming into the tournament. People were like, how are we going to beat Blue-White Humans? And Channel Fireball said, we're going to cast Primeval Titan. They can't possibly win. And they were right for the most part.
Yeah, there's always,
Man,
like, a
everybody
little
thought
bit of
that?
influence.
I need to, like, not listen to those people.
Yeah.
Those were some decisions, man.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Blue-White Humans was really good in that tournament. And, like, Dan Jordan lost playing for top 8 with the deck.
Like I enjoyed that deck a great deal, and I think it was a totally reasonable deck, but I don't think it was the best deck, or even close to the best deck. Like, not only could you never beat a Primeval Titan, your Delver matchup was not, like, unlosable.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Like, you were just playing a deck that was, like, playing very real Magic the Gathering games against every other popular deck.
Hey, I didn't play the deck at the tournament, alright? I backed off, so...
I mean, you got to cast Hero Blade Hold. Like, it had upside, but...
Yeah, I agree. But I think, like, the point basically is it's kind of interesting to have, like, 2 large tournaments kind of dictate where we're going moving forward for this Pro Tour. I would be very surprised if we saw something that we have never seen before. I think the decks are obviously going to be a lot more tuned and built properly, which is cool. For tournaments moving forward for Star City and the Invitational Atlanta and stuff like that. So people have, more decks to copy and, they'll be a lot more tuned. I think that will be a good part of it. I'm looking forward to watching the tournament too, honestly. I don't think we're going to see anything crazy or anything out of the ordinary, but it should be a good tournament.
I think the craziest thing we can hope for legitimately is a Domri deck that just beats the shit out of everyone.
Huh.
I think that's the craziest we can really hope for. And I could well be wrong, but that's I don't know. I want to see if like people have all these Naya shells that have like 6 non-creature spells in them. Can't we just like cut those and put planeswalkers in and just be like, all right, let's do it.
You know, I mean,
Let's
their
do it.
non-creature spells are good.
I don't
But
think
like,
so.
but creatures like do all those things. You can just be like, well, Fiend Hunter, like,
Then you could cut the planeswalkers and put more creatures in the.
And then you have 9
Then-
humans.
Then your deck would be even better.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't. My impression of the Open Series so far is that the meta is not very developed and not very good. So,
That rude.
How dare
I
you.
mean, that may be my impression of the Pro Tour as well, honestly. But I don't think that going into the Pro Tour.
I'm here,
keyboard
guys.
review is
Showed up.
gonna be one of
Showed up
Stats.
on my high horse to survey the results.
Yeah, how's the view?
what do we got?
Well,
I don't know, like, generally in Pro Tours, the majority of the field is playing terrible decks, and then, like, maybe one team shows up with a good deck which goes on to define the format, and the other decks disappear. I think that's happened,
Many
like,
times.
the last
It's happened a few
3
times.
constructed Pro Tours I remember that's happened. So that's what I expect to happen this time, too.
yeah.
High horses aside.
All right, Glenn, do you have any Pro Tour thoughts before we send it out?
Not really. Should be sweet. Obviously, rooting for a couple of friends. I did a Pro Tour draft with a few people that you can find on my Facebook. So I can't remember exactly who it is. I know I hate picked Ari Lax before Ari could pick himself, which was awesome.
Do you think he's gonna be like playing for top 8 and he's gonna be like, but Glenn took me?
I hope that I actually hope he top 8s the tournament, winning me the draft in the process, and also loses the draft in such a way that he is the one who has to buy me dinner, which is what the wager for that bet is. Because that would be the best. That would be the best.
The truth comes out. It always does eventually.
And it's all for dinners. We are mono
Oh.
dinners.
Yeah, we're
Hey, what's-
easy game.
What's better than dinner?
So where are you taking me? You know, I know a lot of good places.
Do you?
Dinner is the best unit of measurement for currency because any amount of currency is one dinner. It's just like a better or worse dinner.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
I agree.
And I know this because Steven introduced this to me like, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 years ago when I was talking to him about poker, and he would always tell me he was either up or down at dinner, I believe, is what he would tell me.
It's perfect.
So like, that's the problem with poker. You like lose $4,000. You feel like shit. You lose one dinner. Like you were gonna eat dinner anyway.
Glenn, I'll take you anywhere you want to go. I'm a man of my word. You win the bet, which
Can
you won't.
you show him the world? Shining, shimmering splendor?
I can and will. Can and will.
Tell me, Princess Nalwender.
The world is
I'm
yours, friend.
very disappointed that did not evolve into a round. I just want to throw that out
Nope.
there. Like,
I stopped it. I cut it right out.
very, very disappointed.
Thanks.
Okay. Alright, let's do shoutouts and get out of Dodge. Cedric, you may go first.
Okay. This a week we stream. I am gonna be streaming Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Gonna have a guest each day. You will see me do my very first Gate Crash Limited this week, so that should be fun. I'm pretty much over my sickness now, which is good. And yesterday, I just started watching the show Homeland.
Oh
I've
yeah.
seen that before, and the hooks are in. The hooks are in bad. I watched the first 2 episodes yesterday, and after this, I am driving to my best friend's house, Stephen Berklid, and we are going to watch like the next 5 episodes over dinner with him and his girlfriend. So the hooks are in real bad. No work is getting done tonight.
That's an example of an expensive dinner. Like,
Yes,
so it's worth the
yes,
food.
it is. I can't wait. It's going to be a good night.
Well, as someone who is both caught up on Homeland and not succumbing to human weakness, I've already been streaming Gate Crash Limited. And yeah, it's all right. I'll probably keep doing it some. I'll do a little Modern too. We have some sweet decks from that, but I'm working for most of the foreseeable future weekends. It's gonna be a while until I'm not. I think like a month, like maybe 5 weeks even straight of just open series events. And this weekend is Cincinnati, so I'm heading out to Ohio to do that.
See you this weekend.
See you there, buddy.
Homeland
Yeah.
has Mandy Patinkin in it. That's
Oh yeah,
that's pretty unreal.
oh yeah. It has
That
Mandy.
is the best. Mandy Patinkin is awesome.
He
All
is
right.
awesome.
Steven, shout out.
I did do a cube draft last week. I just didn't stream it, so like suck on it, viewers. Sorry, guys. Then they took the cube drafts down, unfortunately. I'm watching House of Cards right now. That show is good.
I heard it's really good. I have no idea what it's about either.
It is real good. It's not about cards or houses, really. Not literally.
What this is?
So it's like a metaphor.
Ooh, Kevin Spacey, you say?
I don't know. Metaphors are like what? That's like sorceries for old people. We just have planeswalkers now. I went to a very odd place. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to the Pro Tour, like, an unreasonable amount. I think this is a very exciting format. And another thing I think about this very exciting format is that all the decks in it are terrible so far. So I'm looking forward to my very exciting format having good decks in it.
Alright. I'm not really looking forward to any TV series because I suck. That's like very saddening. There was that movie coming out with what's this? The Magician movie. It had like Woody Harrelson and Jesse Eisenberg.
What's it called? It looks so good.
It looks like it's in my wheelhouse.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like the Michael Cera that I don't hate.
I think it's called Now You. I think it's called Now You See It.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
Yeah, it looks good.
That is the thing that I want. So that's what I will give you guys in terms of things that I want going forward. Anyway, thanks for watching. We will be back next week, where presumably we'll talk about the results of the Pro Tour, and we can tell you who won the fantasy pool, which I'm sure you're all dying to know. Thanks for watching, everyone. We will see you next week.
Bye!
Bye.
Bye.